Welcome back to the Miami Sports Vibes YouTube channel. Here to talk joint practices with the Dolphins and the Chicago Bears that took place today. Obviously, a lot of notes to get into that caught my eye from yours truly, a diehard fan. So I gathered up a couple different notes from all the beat writers that were out there, and I'm going to let you know my thoughts and the ones that kind of really caught my eye, honestly. And I'm going to start off with the offense. So first of all, the first thing we have to talk about is Tua. 3 interceptions after only having just one on the previous days going head to head with his own defense. I don't think that's good. Obviously not good. Throwing 3 interceptions is not a good sign, regardless if there's balls tipped, yada, yada, yada. The excuse, not with the excuse. The action is 3 interceptions, not a good sign for the joint practice. Also noteworthy, Tyreek Hill sat out this practice with an oblique injury. I think that is a good sign because it was an undisclosed injury the day before that he sat out of practice. Now we got clarity on that, and we also got clarity that it's not a major injury. It's obviously something, you want to be cautious here, and you know how important Tyreek Hill is to this football team if you want to rack up wins. He's obviously the best player on this football team. Him as a person quitting on the team, that's a story for a different day. But as far as a player, he is very important to get us wins at the end of the day. Alexander Madison, listen, this is a guy who's been killing it at camp. I mean, we're hearing it everywhere. You're reading it, you're hearing it. He has been killing it since pads have came on. And honestly, I was kind of thinking to myself, I'm like, damn, I've been hearing Alexander Madison's name a little bit more than Jalen Wright. Could Alex Madison be RB2 heading into the season? But he had 2 fumbles today. Obviously, protecting the football is, objective number one. We don't want to give the football away to the other team. Having 2 fumbles in this joint practice where you're able to now showcase. See, this is the thing for me. All of these guys that were doing good, I want you to perform what I've been seeing and what Dolphin fans have been seeing against another team. Joint practice is important. Shit, I think joint practices are more important than the actual preseason game. That's just me. So I put a lot of stock into this. All right. So plenty of fans might think I'm overreacting. I'm just letting you know how I feel about things. 2 fumbles in a joint practice. Don't like to see that from Alexander Madison, let alone he's a veteran in this league. Jalen Wright also struggled. Okay, that's not a good sign because he's a guy that's kind of had an up and down camp. And obviously, all of Dolphins Twitter, the Dolphin fan base, including myself, have high expectations for Jalen Wright. We want him to be RB2. We want him to do big things. We want him to have a huge role on this team. Not really helping himself, but hopefully he has plenty of time to turn that around and he'll get some action in the preseason game. Overall, the Chicago Bears bought the physicality. They definitely were more physical than Miami Dolphins offense. Jalen Waddle got laid out. Thankfully he was okay after that. But Jalen Waddle, wasn't really hearing a lot of Jalen Waddle talk. You've been hearing that he's been dominating against the Dolphins DBs throughout camp. He had a nice play in there, but not too much of that steady diet of Jalen Waddle. But I'm not worried about Jalen. D. Eskridge, a guy who's been awesome, who I've been, raving about him on this podcast, telling you, hey, this guy potentially could even be wide receiver 3. They didn't really hear too much out of him. The offensive line, right? How did the offensive line do as a whole? We all know the importance of this offensive line. They struggled. All right. They had some good success, especially when running to the left from what I saw, which is obviously good to see. But penalties, man, penalties will literally lose you a football game, especially when the offensive line cannot get their things together. False starts and holds from the offense, multiple. I think it was about 4. I think in total, it might have been 6 between the 2 of them, between false starts and holds. Not good. They have to clean that up. That's completely unacceptable. Tyreek Hill also showed some leadership. There was a scuffle. He kind of took D. Eskridge out from, I believe Omar said this on his Twitter, which was kind of cool, to see a little bit of leadership there. Take it for what you will. I do like to see at least that he was part of the scrum, kind of taking out a young guy and getting him out of this mess and kind of coaching him up a bit. But overall, man, the offense got outmatched. Mike McDaniel's offense and Tua completely got outmatched. And that's a huge red flag. Honestly, like, you have these joint practices to kind of get a better evaluation. And throughout training camp, I personally have been talking about it right here on my videos, how much I have loved how many great things I've been hearing about the Dolphins, about Zach Wilson, about Quinn Ewers, about Jalen Waddle, and I'm talking about the offense, about Tua, about the running game as a whole. But this is where you have to kind of prove it, where I mentioned in the last video, you're going to get 100% out of the other side. So you have to deliver. Now, obviously you have 2 more joint practices next week, plenty of time to clean things up, and you have the preseason game. And this is good, right? You don't want to go and kind of hit it out the park every single time throughout the whole offseason and then show up in the regular season and, you get punched in the mouth. So I am glad that we struggled. That way, Mike McDaniel has enough time to kind of look over things and kind of reassess situations and fix these things up as you have time. So nothing to really panic about. All right, at the end of the day, but let's talk about the defense. The defense, I have to start with Jordan Brooks. He's a guy who everybody has heard how great he's been doing throughout camp. He continues to have a nice dominant performance. The defense played pretty well. Anthony Weaver had these guys ready to ball, unlike Mike McDaniel, which is good. Jordan Brooks did have an interception. I thought that was awesome to read. Obviously, he continues to do big things. He got into a scuffle that a lot of the Dolphins reporters weren't able to really see who it was with. There are some sources out there saying on Twitter, there's rumbling saying that it was Terrell Dotson. I'm not sure if that's 100% correct, but at the end of the day, Jordan Brooks did get into a scuffle with his own teammate, which obviously I do not like to see that. I mean, get into a scuffle with the other guys on the other side of the football against the Chicago Bears, but please don't fight against each other, especially when we're out of joint practice. It's just a bad look. I don't like that. I don't like that. Like, we can't fight against each other when we're in a joint practice trying to make a statement and they're out, playing more physical than us. We already look bad as is. So not a good look. But I'm certain that Anthony Weaver will talk to those guys and kind of lead that defense to hashing things out at the end of the day. So I wouldn't be too worried about that, but definitely not a good look. Alan Poupart does a great job. I did listen to him. He threw out some names that caught my eye and some good things. He mentioned that Bradley Chubb had some impactful pressures in the red zone, which is obviously money. Bradley Chubb, a guy who's been suffered a couple of injuries there, coming back in. Is his production going to be the same? The fact that he was impactful in red zone specifically, that's obviously a good sign. Ethan Bonner also did well in one-on-ones, which is good because Ethan Bonner has been a guy who's, kind of on our radar, especially from the DBs where we desperately need help. And then Grayson Murphy, a guy who's had a great camp. He apparently was very impactful and, might have been one of the top 3 performers for the Dolphins for the entire day. So that's great to see. Overall, though, Anthony Weaver, man, I mean, I cannot stop talking about this guy. Freaking just loves how he has this squad ready on defense no matter what. And the fact that they held their own where the offense didn't really show up. And you're going against a team coached by Ben Johnson, where Ben Johnson is an offensive wizard. So the fact that Weaver was able to have these guys ready, we already know the deficiencies within our defense itself. But Anthony Weaver literally just responds to all of the tasks at hand constantly. Man, I cannot get enough about Anthony Weaver. I really hope that by the time the season is done, that we do the right thing and give Anthony Weaver the keys, man. Because the dude is a leader of men. Just the way he carries himself and the way he responds and the way this team responds to him and what he's been able to deliver since being a defensive coordinator here. I just see way more leadership qualities in him than Mike McDaniel. And this shouldn't be a shock to anybody who's listened to me. Pretty much know how I feel about Mike McDaniel. But at the end of the day, I mean, I want my team to win, but damn, man, Anthony Weaver, he really, really is winning me over, and he continues to win me over throughout this offseason. But we'll see how that goes. Story for a different day. Listen, the Dolphins have another opportunity here. They got a preseason game on Sunday. All right. And then you have 2 joint practices against Dan Campbell. So plenty of opportunity here to fix what you didn't like, go to Detroit, play an aggressive, meet the physicality. All right. Correct those things and meet the physicality. Do not get punked. I'm sick of the Dolphins being called soft and all of that stuff. Be ready to clean things up. I think this Dolphins team will do that. They'll get to the drawing board, and I'm not too worried. I will have a recap video about the preseason game that takes place on Sunday against the Bears. So keep it locked into my channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the like button to support. And Fins fans, let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll be happy to hear your feedback and engage with you guys on there. But for right now, I will see you guys for the preseason recap, and then next week here for more Dolphins content on the other 2 joint practices. Fins up, everybody. Peace.